Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz, filling in for Robert Osborne, who's on vacation this week. And while Robert is on spring break, we thought we'd program a week of spring break films. And joining me to help introduce them is Tom Lisanti, 60s film expert and author of several books about movies, including Hollywood surf and beach movies, The First Wave. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Ben. Good to be here.
Good to have you. As with our previous film, this next one is also directed by Bruce Brown. It's an earlier surfing documentary of his from 1960, Barefoot Adventure. This was not, you shouldn't, when we see this, don't think of it as being released in big, grand theaters. That's not how it was with these early surfing documentaries.
Right. The early ones from the mid-50s were shot usually with no sound, no musical score, no narration. And the filmmakers would take them literally up and down the Southern California coast and show them in high school gymnasiums and civic centers and do live narration or bring a recorder and play the music. Really,
and the surfers would respectfully sit there and watch the film.
No, it's the camaraderie amongst the surfers, hooting and hollering and cheering the surfers on the screen that really made these movies popular, but again, with a very, very, very limited audience.
Bruce Brown's later documentary, Endless Summer, had a more sophisticated score than this one. Or not so much more sophisticated, but more what you'd think of for a surfing documentary. The musical score here is very different.
Yeah, it's a jazz score by Bud Shank, and it was saved. The original narration was lost. It was redone in 1990 when they remastered the movie, but the score was saved, and it's great, jazz score, but for me, it just doesn't fit what you're seeing on the screen.
And what you're seeing on the screen is terrific. I mean, just because this was essentially seen originally in civic auditoriums and high school gyms up and down the California coast, again, the photography, the surfing, the actual, what we're actually seeing is really remarkable.
Yes, and he has some famous surfers in here, like you see Mickey Dora, and actually a 14-year-old Robert August, who a few years later went on that Endless Summer.
And Mickey Dora and some of the others, these were guys that then showed up again and again and again in the beach and surf movies of the 1960s.
Yes, Mickey Dora especially. Liked to make the money, was a favorite of the director William Asher, but was the bad boy of the surfing crowd and tried not to get his face on the screen.
So the surfers must have loved these documentaries, but of course, as time went on and the surfing was exposed to a huge part of the American population with the beach party movies with Gidget, the surfers then, all of a sudden, they started to turn. They didn't like those movies. They liked the documentaries. They didn't like those movies. How come?
Well, the documentaries, I think, really showed the real surf culture, the surfing. The other movies, Gidget and Beach Party, created this fantasy world of, young kids on the beach, and surfing was really more of the backdrop of, Southern California, sunshine, singing, dancing with your girlfriend, romance, and that wasn't what the surfers, were there. The surfers were in the water most of the time. They weren't on the sand.
They felt, the surfers you talked to, they felt a little belittled by some of those movies, didn't they?
Yes. One of them, his name is Ed Garner, who I interviewed for Hollywood Surf and Beach Movies, was in the beach movies, and he felt that, some of these surfers really, they were disappointed that they weren't chosen to be in the movies.
Oh, so maybe it wasn't that they resented the movies, as they resented the fact that they weren't in the movies.
Yes. He said a lot of the surfers he worked with on the movies knew it's Hollywood. It's a fictional, it's a fictionalized, it's fiction. So they are happy to do it, and they didn't think it was making us, real documentary type thing about surfing.
All right, Tom, let's take a look at this early surf documentary from 1960, directed by Bruce Brown, the father of the surf film, Barefoot Adventure.